Well, folks, we've been picking up on a couple stories today. The big one is out of Iowa. We have a couple reports that are swirling, reportedly from Punchbowl, that incumbent senator from Iowa, Joni Ernst, may not be running for re-election in 2026. And this would be a big deal. This would be a very big deal for Iowa, for the GOP, for the Senate. And we're going to be going through everything that we know today. But before we get into it, drop down below, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button. Make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. Now, let's first talk about who Joni Ernst is. And so she's been a U.S. Senator from Iowa since 2015. She became the first female senator from the state of Iowa. She was a retired lieutenant colonel in the Iowa Army National Guard. And she's really built a reputation as a no-nonsense conservative who fights for lower taxes, stronger national defense, and rural America. Now, there's a lot of people in the Republican Party who would consider her a rhino, even though most people don't even know what a rhino even is, if we're being 100% honest. She's more of an establishment figure, which I think is true. I think it is true that she's more of an establishment-esque figure. She's not a populist Republican. I wouldn't consider her that. But she initially won her seat back in 2014, won by about 8.5 points back in 2014 versus Democrat Bruce Braley. She secured re-election in 2020, won by about a 6-7 point margin then, and she's, for the most part, been a reliable vote for Republican priorities, from tax cuts, confirming conservative judges, and although she occasionally breaks rank and questions things, like the Pete Hegseth nomination, that was she made a lot of news around that, and now recently, she made some relatively big news for these Medicaid statements she made about how we're all going to die, which, is true. Are Democrats already fundraising off of it? Oh, hell yeah. They're going to fundraise a shit ton of money off "we're all going to die" off that comment. They'll put it on t-shirts. They'll put it on billboards. They are not going to let her live that down. I trust me on that. But as of right now, from what we know, so these are reports that we were getting reportedly from Punchbowl. A couple things that we've heard is that she is reportedly, now I was not able to confirm this. This is unconfirmed. This is from America First Insights. Have not been able to confirm it yet, that she is reportedly postponing major summer fundraising to this fall. Also, like we said, the gaffe, talking about Medicaid, it's fueled some questions around her re-election plans. But as of right now, she has declared that she is running in 2026 for re-election. It's like, look, she announced like a year ago that she was running, if we're looking at this. Like, look, this is from May of last year. She announced back in May of last year, says that she will seek a third term. So look, she's going to run. And asked directly if she planned to seek re-election to the U.S. Senate in 2026 and to rate her likelihood on a scale of 1 to 10 for a third term, she said 10. Very likely. So, obviously that was a year ago. Things can change, but she's already declared that she's running. So, is it possible that we could see a change? Absolutely. But also, I was not able to verify from anywhere yet. I did some AI searches. I searched through Google. Could not find anything related to postponing this major fundraising. Obviously, in the days to come, we'll get some more information on exactly what this is. But as of right now, for all we know, she is running for re-election. And she probably is the most formidable candidate to run in this race. Look, is she my favorite Republican in the entire world? Absolutely not. No, she's not my favorite Republican. But the reality is there is a very, very good field here. Number one, Nathan Sage. You had Poland already shown that he was leading, which, do I believe any of that? Not really. I really don't. But J.D. Scholten, he is really the one who I'd be more worried about. He has an intense electoral record in the state. Now, yes, did he win any of these in these congressional districts? No. But look at this. He put up a pretty big battle. Go back to 2018. Look at this. This is a state right here, Steve King, a Republican here, 2018. This is a state that Republicans won by 22 points in 2016. Fast forward to 2018, Steve King wins it barely by 3 points. Iowa flips, 2 of the congressional districts flip. They now hold 3 congressional districts in 2018. Right now, Republicans hold all 4 congressional districts. He did very, very well. Fast forward to 2020. Yes, was this as good of a margin? Was this within 3 points? Absolutely not. But still, better than it was expected to be. This was a much better performance than it was expected to be in 2020. So he's got a good electoral record for being a Democrat in Iowa, in a deep red district in Iowa. I'm not going to count this guy out. Like, I'm just not. It's not going to happen. And you couple this with the speculation around Joni Ernst not running for re-election, which, look, there are a lot of Republicans who would love for her to leave. Okay, the reality is, who's going to replace her? Who's going to replace her? That's the big question. Who else do the Republicans, and obviously, do I think they would be able to field a good candidate? Absolutely. But there is a lot of benefits that come with being the incumbent. There's a lot of benefits that come in with being the incumbent, especially with the fundraising network that you have in place. That is a big deal. But, she had a pretty big gaffe, and I've said it multiple times. I don't think this was something that was going to derail her campaign or derail her re-election. And then, she doubled down with a sarcastic video apology, which it didn't really help her case. Did it hurt her? Maybe a little bit. But, I'd say the bigger thing that I'd be looking at here is the polling. She's, not even 50% of people want her to, I shouldn't say want her to run for re-election. That's this one up here. Still, less than 50% of people want her to run for re-election in the Republican Party. It's 48%, so you're close. But ultimately, 27% say someone else. 1 in 4 voters are someone else. 1 out of every 2 stay with who you got. 1 out of every 4 undecided right now. So, you couple this with the fact that her approval ratings are kind of shaky right now. The most recent June 2025 public policy polling survey showed that only 39% of Iowa voters approve of her performance and 47% disapprove, with only 38% wanting to re-elect her in 2026, while 52% prefer someone new. So, it's kind of a tough place to be. It really is. But ultimately, I don't think that, there's a reason why some of the bigger conservative America First organizations are not trying to primary her, because they understand that this would be it's going to be a close race to begin with, let alone the fact that you're going to take the incumbent out of this race. It's like, go back to Iowa. In 2018, Trump's first midterm, look at this here. Look at the popular vote in Iowa. Democrats won the popular vote. Now, there was no Senate race in 2018, but Democrats won. They won the popular vote in Iowa in Trump's first midterm. Like, we can't downplay that fact there. Like, that's a simple reality of where we're at. Go back to 2016. Look, Trump wins by 9 points. Yes, is he winning by 13 points now? Absolutely. Do I think Iowa is more red and more Republican than it was before? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean it's not going to be close. It doesn't mean that Iowa couldn't get within 5 points, which could be a little scary. Then you take the incumbent out of the race? Oh my gosh. Why are we going to be taking these risks if we don't have to? We shouldn't be. But, like we said, if she doesn't run, the GOP will need a strong candidate to hold the seat. Iowa has another Senator, Chuck Grassley, who's a legend, but the guy's 91. He's not, he's not a long-term option for the Senate, so there are 2 Senate seats that are going to need to be filled here pretty quickly. There are names like Governor Kim Reynolds, Representative Ashley Hinson could emerge, but they're going to face the same battles, just like any Republican, these healthcare, Medicaid, economic issues that Republicans and that Americans are grasping with right now. They're also going to have to defend this one big, beautiful bill, which I think it's going to be easier to defend it. Look, tax cuts, major tax cuts. Like that's the big thing that we're looking at here. But the reality is regardless of what happens, Iowa needs a leader who can defend the conservative priorities like fiscal responsibility, limited government, without alienating voters on issues like healthcare. And look, it's tough. It's tough to balance all these principles in real-world concerns of your constituents. But whoever runs in the 2026 race needs to thread that needle. They do. But you also have to deal with the bigger picture. That is 2026. It's a midterm election under President Trump. And historically, midterms are rough for the party in power. And if Joni Ernst steps aside and the GOP fumbles with a replacement, Iowa could become a battleground state moving forward. Just like Georgia. Look, Georgia, obviously, different demographics, but Georgia is a Republican state. It's a lean Republican state. Republicans fumbled in 2020 and they fumbled in 2022. And now it's a toss-up state when this should be 100% a lean Republican state. Also, they're struggling to get people. Like, you want to talk about Kim Reynolds potentially running if Joni Ernst doesn't. Okay, basically, no governor wants to run for the Senate in 2026. Like, basically none of them. You look in Georgia, they couldn't get Brian Kemp. So far in North Carolina, they can't get Roy Cooper. You go up to New Hampshire, they can't get Chris Sununu. They couldn't get Chris Sununu to run. You go to Maine, they can't get Janet Mills to run. Look at Colorado. You have Senator Hickenlooper, who's actually going back to Colorado to run for governor. Look at Alabama. You have Tommy Tuberville, who's going back to Alabama to run for governor. Look, you couldn't get Tim Walz to run in Minnesota. You couldn't get Gretchen Whitmer to run in Michigan. They are struggling to get governors to run for the Senate, going from being the CEO, the executive of your state, to being a legislator in a body of 100 people. DC is a tough place. It's a tough place to be. So then you have to deal with that dynamic. Would Kim Reynolds even want to run in this race? Like, would she? I don't know. I genuinely don't think so. She might not want to. She might. Who knows? But let me know, where do you stand on this? Do you think Ernst should run for re-election? Do you think she shouldn't run for re-election? Do you think this speculation about Joni Ernst not running is just that speculation? Or do you really think that she may step back and not run? These fundraising delays are a serious thing. And she seriously intends to step down, to not run for re-election. Let me know your thoughts down below. As always, drop down below, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. And folks, we will catch you next time.